Imagine this. You wake up in the middle of the night to the sound of something moving in your house. Not an intruder. No, this is worse. It's the slow, deliberate creak of floorboards under your own footsteps. You're already standing, already walking, eyes wide open in the dark. But you aren't the one moving your body. Somewhere in the back of your skull, a voice screams, "Stop, turn on the light, wake up." But your hands don't obey. Your legs carry you forward step by step towards something you can't see. And then, just as your fingers brush against the cold metal of a kitchen knife, you snap back into control. You gasp, trembling, gripping the counter for balance. Was it sleepwalking? A hallucination, or something far more unsettling, proof that you are not always the one in charge? This is not fiction. It's a documented phenomenon, parasomnia, where the sleeping brain hijacks the body, sometimes leading to violence without memory, harm without intent. But the true horror isn't the loss of control. It's the realization that this is just a glimpse of a deeper, more disturbing truth. Human nature is not what we pretend it is. History whispers it in the bloodstains of wars waged for no reason. Psychology confirms it in the Stanford prison experiment, where ordinary men became monsters in days. Philosophy warns of it in Nietzsche's words. Whoever fights monsters should see to it that he does not become a monster. But the most terrifying question isn't how people turn cruel. It's this. What if they were never truly kind to begin with? What if morality is just a mask, one that slips the moment no one is watching? And worst of all, what if you are no exception? The answer is worse than you think, and it's only the beginning. The mask slips. History has shown it time and again. Ordinary people, under the right conditions, commit atrocities without hesitation. The Nazis who signed paperwork before shipping children to gas chambers. The factory workers who laughed as they tested Agent Orange on villages. The neighbors who turned in hiding Jews for a loaf of bread. This is not an aberration. It is human nature. Carl Jung called it the shadow, the repressed, monstrous self that lurks beneath the surface of every person. It is not a flaw. It is a feature of the human psyche, an evolutionary remnant of survival instincts gone unchecked. Friedrich Nietzsche saw it too, declaring, "Man is the cruelest animal." He understood that civilization is not the taming of our nature, but a fragile dam holding back something far older, far darker. Arthur Schopenhauer took it further. He argued that beneath all reason, all morality, there is only one true force, driving humanity, the will, a blind, insatiable hunger for power, pleasure, and domination. It does not care for ethics. It does not care for love. It only wants more. And the most terrifying part, you are not immune. The Stanford prison experiment proved it. Within days, average students became sadistic guards or broken prisoners, not because they were evil, but because the role allowed it. Philip Zimbardo's research revealed the Lucifer effect, the phenomenon where good people do evil simply because the system permits it. But what if the system is not just prisons or wars? What if the system is you, your mind, your choices, the lies you tell yourself to sleep at night? The horror is not that monsters exist. The horror is that they look like everyone else, including you. You tell yourself you would never break, never succumb. But history whispers otherwise. Consider the Kitty Genovese case. A woman stabbed to death in 1964 while 38 witnesses watched from their windows. Not one intervened, not one even called the police until it was too late. Psychologists called it the bystander effect. The more people watching, the less likely anyone acts. But the truth is more sinister. Indifference is our default setting. We like to believe cruelty requires hatred, but most evil is banal. Just people following orders, avoiding discomfort, or chasing small pleasures while the world burns. The guards at Auschwitz went home to their families after a day's work. The executives who hid cancer, risks in cigarettes, slept soundly. The cult leaders who manipulated followers into mass suicide believed they were heroes. Why? Because the human brain is wired for self-deception. Cognitive biases like the just world fallacy, believing victims deserve their fate, and moral licensing, I'm a good person, so this one bad thing doesn't count, let us sleep at night. Neuroscience reveals something even darker. Your brain decides to act before you are even aware of the choice. Free will is an illusion. You are always playing catch-up to a machine already running on primal code. And the most unsettling part? This is how society functions. Governments exploit it. Corporations weaponize it. Every advertisement, every political campaign, every viral trend taps into the same buried instincts. Fear, tribalism, the hunger for status. You are not being persuaded, you are being hacked. The horror isn't that monsters exist, it's that the system is designed to create them, and you are already inside it. There is a way out, but you won't like it. The first step is the hardest. You must accept that you are not the hero of this story. Viktor Frankl, survivor of Auschwitz and author of Man's Search for Meaning, discovered an unsettling truth. In the camps, the line between victim and perpetrator was thinner than anyone wanted to admit. Some prisoners traded favors for crumbs of power. Others clung to kindness in the dark. The difference wasn't morality, it was awareness. Jean-Paul Sartre called this bad faith, the lies we tell ourselves to avoid facing the abyss of our own freedom. You pretend your job, your politics, your routines absolve you of choice. But they don't. Every second you are choosing. Even refusing to choose is a choice. To break the cycle, you must do three things. See the mask. Catch yourself in the act of rationalizing cruelty, laughing at a dehumanizing joke, ignoring a homeless person, scrolling past war casualties because they're too depressing. These are not small things. They are rehearsals for worse. Embrace the shadow. Carl Jung warned that denying your darkness only makes it stronger. You are capable of evil. The only way to disarm it is to stare straight into it, to ask, what would make me snap? What have I already justified? Choose discomfort. Aldous Huxley's Brave New World revealed humanity's greatest weakness, the craving for pleasure over truth. Resist it. Seek out what hurts to know. Befriend the parts of reality you've been trained to ignore. This is not redemption. Redemption is a fairy tale. This is waking up, and the price is knowing you can never sleep again. Here is the secret no one wants to hear. You are already complicit every time you looked away, every time you laughed at the wrong joke, every time you told yourself, it's not my problem. The machinery of horror depends on these tiny surrenders. The Holocaust didn't start with gas chambers. It started with neighbors no longer seeing Jews as human. The slave trade didn't begin with whips. It began with one group deciding another was less than real. Fyodor Dostoevsky understood this. In The Brothers Karamazov, he wrote, "Every man is responsible for everything before everyone." But we have spent centuries building systems to obscure that truth. Governments, religions, ideologies, all exist to distribute guilt so widely that no one feels its weight, but the weight is still there. And here is the final, most devastating realization. There is no them, no monsters hiding in the dark, no separate species of evil, just people, exhausted, frightened, narcissistic, ordinary. People who one day found it easier to hurt than to resist. The guards at Auschwitz didn't believe they were evil. They believed they were doing their jobs. This is the true horror. Not that evil exists, but that it is always an option for you, right now, today. The only barrier is the story you tell yourself about who you are, and stories can change in an instant. So, I leave you with this question, the one that will haunt you long after this ends. What will you do tomorrow when the mask slips? Will you even notice, or will you just adjust it slightly and keep walking?